You're a local guy, relatively speaking, coming home. I know it was a nice opportunity for you. What's what it might be like for Ken tonight to come back here and coach his first game in Edmonton?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he's excited about it. Getting the first chance to coach in the NHL in front of his hometown. So I'm sure it'll be a special moment for him.
Talk about what it's been like. I mean, I guess it's just a week ago when everything happened. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, and what it's like now that you're starting to settle in.
Yeah, it has been a bit of a whirlwind. There's a lot that goes on behind closed doors, meetings, and talking about how we need to play as a group and what we're trying to accomplish, and as well as individual meetings, line meetings. So it's been a bit of a blur, but I think now that everyone's starting to get settled and get a sense for what he's looking for.
And I think initially when he was hired on the road, he said, I went in and told the guys, no surprises, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And do you think guys have kind of picked up on that in the 3 games?
Yeah, I think so. His message is pretty clear and pretty direct, and I think guys are starting to become aware of that and realize that's the way it's going to be. And now it's up to us to deliver that message.
Is he a different coach than he was when you played for him a few years ago?
No, pretty much exact same. Yeah.
Kyle, you've played 8 games on the road this month already. There's 3 games here in the next week here. Kind of just help settle things down, as you mentioned earlier.
It's always nice to get back home. It feels like as a team we've been on the road quite a bit for the first couple of months. So it'll be nice to get back home, get reacquainted with playing at home, playing in front of our crowd, and I think guys are looking forward to it.
And I guess without getting into too much detail.
times, with people coming in and out of the organization. But as hockey players, you kind of understand that, and you just gotta, live with it. And as for stepping right into the game, it makes it a little bit easier on the players just to step in and just play a game right away and not have to overthink anything like that.
Drake, sorry for stepping in a little late here, and if you've answered this question already, but you look second line today. Looks like you're lining up beside Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Jesse Puljujarvi. What can you say about that line and the skill set that they have?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've been playing a little bit with Nuge throughout the season, so I think I have a pretty good grasp of how he wants to play. And as for Jesse, he's called back up. He went down to the minors, but he obviously did a really good job down there, and now he's back up with us. And if Jesse's playing with confidence, he's going to be a great player with us. And hopefully his time down with Bakersfield allowed him to grow his confidence. And I'm looking forward to playing with him again. He's obviously a great player. He's got high-end skill, and he's a big player. And hopefully meshes well with us.
A couple of changes during the road trip, including the head coach making his home debut today. Obviously, you guys want to win every game, but is today a little bit, maybe circled on the calendar, wanting to get Hitch that win in his hometown? Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely a good milestone, but it's not something that we're thinking about. We just approach each game as as an task at hand, and this is an important one for us. We had a pretty decent road trip. It could have been a great one, but we didn't close out the LA game. But we're looking forward to getting back on home ice and playing in front of our fans. We feel like we've been traveling a lot lately, so it's definitely good to be back home.
Drake, just what's maybe the mandate against the Stars? I know they're a high-scoring second-period team, 31 goals in the middle frame. What's your guys' scouting report on that?
Well, I think they like to play a highly offensive game. We talked about them being really committed in the offensive zone, but maybe not as much committed in the defensive zone, and we got to find ways to exploit that. But they're a good team. They got a lot of high-end skill. We got to make sure we're doing the right things and checking for our chances and checking for our opportunities, because they have some high-end guys that can make some plays. So we just got to make sure we limit their opportunities, but by doing that, we're going to create our own.
Excellent. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, thank you. Good luck.
Be good for those guys on the exit in our end, around the net for them, puck retrieval, and hopefully we can get something going tonight.
You've remained productive as in your brief times in Northern, even though you have already moved around with different line mates and had some power play time. Where is that coming from, that you've kind of been able to score no matter where you've been in the lineup or who you've been with?
Well, I think playing with confidence. I've obviously been able to feel the puck really well on my stick and be opportunity. Whether it's having a bad period or a couple bad shifts, the coaching staff has had a trust in me in throwing me back out there, whether it's on the power play or offensive line face-off. So I think for me as a player, you feel like you have the trust from your coach. You can go out and play, and you don't have to worry too much about X's and O's. So. I think those two things have been real key for me so far this year.
When you're, weighing options in the summer and looking at different teams you might be able to go try out for, do you envision this, that looking at the depth chart in Edmonton, if you come here and you play well, that you never know what can happen? And I know you're wanting a spot on a roster, but there was potential here for this to maybe happen.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, I think looking at my different options, I thought here would be a good opportunity for me to earn a contract, and B, looking for a chance to play with some good players. And I've been able to do those two things so far this year. So, it's been special for me, obviously, with nothing going on and have to earn a contract and not playing the first 5 games, and being able to play well from the get-go and getting an opportunity to play with some good players. So I'm happy with that.
Can you, and this isn't any disrespect to your skating, but you're playing with the fastest player in the world, some would say. Leon's a pretty quick player too. How do you, how do you sort of approach that, wanting to be able to be there off the rush, but also understanding the speed of the guys you're playing with?
Right. I think I think just on the power play, I've tried I've tried to watch where Connor is skating towards. So if there's a loose puck that's coming up to me, I know I can just put it in the area and he'll be the first guy to do it. So I think I got to bring some of that mentality to my 5-on-5 game. I just think my hockey sense is going to help me just to making sure I'm not trailing behind, and obviously I'm not going to keep up with him. No one does. But if I can find myself, being good on the exits in our end, and I know Connor is he's gonna drive wide and just create space. If I can come in, at the same time open the lane for him, or coming in at the end, and those two kind of play catch, and I can get a little bit of space by myself around the net. That'd be ideal.
Alex, how is the team adjusting to the new coach's priorities here?
It's been good. I thought I was actually really surprised by our first game in San Jose, not having any practice, nothing, just a couple of videos, how we've been able to kind of change our mindset a little bit. I know the point of the score at the end of the game on this road trip, the last two games maybe didn't go where we wanted to be, but just our play in general, we're definitely more connected. I know Hitch is being hard on us on our compete level and the way we battle around our net and in the corners, and how a little play may not seem like a lot, but it may lead to something else. So I think everyone's buying into that, and we're trying to see, we're seeing a little bit how it's helping us. So it's been really good so far.
Alex, you guys look to get back in at 500 rather, going against the Dallas Stars tonight. A team that scored 31 second period goals. What's the scouting report on the Stars and the game plan to kind of get the W tonight?
Yeah, obviously their first line, one of the best in the league. Those three guys create a lot and they play a lot of minutes, so I think that's a key matchup for us. And I think the other thing that's important is our play in the offensive zone is going to help us to not have to defend as much. If we can create second and third opportunities, be hard on pucks, and execute our plays, we'll be fine.
Thanks, Alex.
Getting the touches with the boys and passing is a little bit that I was missing, so this is a good thing for me.
I think a lot of people out there would probably wonder, a knee injury first and this. Do you feel you still have a lot left in the tank, and you're coming back from these injuries, and
as I said, it's part of the game, and I'm still a young guy. Maybe he's getting a little bit older, but 32 is not really old in this league.
Not many miles on you the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah. I've been in the garage for a bit.
You're a peak around.
Yeah, so clean the pipes a little bit and get the engine running again. So I feel pretty confident.
See, last year you came back and you stepped right into the NHL. This time around, would you like a couple of games, even in Bakersfield, at least to play some
maybe
games, all of a sudden?
2-3 months and then
say go down there and play.
Oh yeah,
3 games, and then
maybe it's a possibility. I'm open to it. I have no trouble with it, so I just want to make sure I get a couple games in to dust myself up and go from there. It will be even tough when you go down there for a couple of games, because you guys already will be playing like 40 games. So, but
if you make a mistake down there, it's
the same thing. You don't want to make mistakes, no matter where you are. So.
Have you ever had to watch your teammates this long, though?
Yeah, last year.
Last year, I know that last year. Last year, this year, in your hockey career.
No. I had, bumps and bruises, broken ribs, but nothing this long.
It must be tough, right?
I'm used to it after last year, so mentally get ready for it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Thanks, Andre.
Thanks.
little bit maybe about your emotion coaching your first game for the Oilers in Edmonton, what that means?
I don't know. I mean, you've been at it so long that it just, to me, I feel just fortunate that I got a chance to coach them. I mean, it's been a team that I've followed since the WHA days, and coaching at home is important, but for me, just getting a chance to, at this stage in my life, coach this team is really, I mean, at times overwhelming, to be honest with you. But I actually feel most comfortable in the arena. The rest of the part of my life is a little chaotic and nervous. I learned today that they've got one name for a lot of streets called Detour, and I've also got stopped by the police at 5:15 in the morning for going the wrong way. So I'm doing good. Inside the rink, I'm fine. Outside the rink, I'm a mess right now.
Ken, I want to ask you about moving Chase onto the McDavid-Draisaitl line. You sung his praises after last game. When you have a player who, and he admits it, doesn't necessarily have the same top-end speed those guys do, how do you find success playing with players that are faster than you, and how do you think he will?
Well, I think the game's changed right now. Like it used to be, used to use checking lines to control the other team's top line, and now it just seems power on power, and we need a guy that can win board battles, that can maintain possession of the puck, that can open up space at the top of the zone for a guy like Connor or Leon, and especially Connor. We need that type of presence, and we need a guy that's going to keep the puck in the zone because he's so strong on it. And that's, you look at the hard matches now, it's just power on power and then let it play out from there. And that's why we're doing what we're doing with it right now. And it's the same reason, quite frankly, that we're putting Jesse up with that group. We just feel, and we've got to get that type of game from him going, and we might as well start now.
Todd, what about Spooner? You've seen him for a few days, Ken, and I think I might have just called you Todd, so I apologize for that old habit. Ryan Spooner says he's going to. Seems like he's playing center. What do you hope to get from that move from him, and maybe what haven't you seen that you'd hope to get from him in the first few games?
Well, I think he's got to use his speed more, and I think you can't use it's hard to use your speed on the wall. I think we've got to find out kind of where he fits. We know he's a good power play player, but where he fits and where we can use him best speed-wise. And so we'll move him. He's the one player, quite frankly, we'll move around. We won't hesitate moving him up on the top six role during a game. He's going to be kind of the guy that flexes out a little bit, and if we're down a goal or we get ourselves where it's a lot of 5-on-5 play and I can double up Connor, then he'll move to the wall and we'll go with that same angle there. He can, he's a guy that can play a number of positions. He's a smart player, and we got to take advantage of it. But I would like to see how he looks at center ice right now.
Ken, when Peter talked about hiring you, he said that you were very familiar with his roster and you guys were able to go down the roster and talk about each. Were you familiar with the roster because it was the Oilers, or is that something that you familiar with every roster in the NHL and could talk about pretty much every player in the league?
No, when I talked to Jim Nill, when I was transitioning into what I was doing, I would say 80% of my focus, quite frankly, was on the opposition in the West. So I spent an awful lot of time watching other teams play hockey. I spent a little bit of time watching the Stars, just to help Monty out, on big picture stuff. But Jim and I talked weekly or bi-weekly just on trends, on opposition, on which team was making a push, which team was vulnerable, depth players, stuff like that. So my real focus was on the West, and I thought, a really good handle on every team and their capabilities and their weaknesses and strengths right throughout the Western Conference. And Jim and I would talk about that at length at least once a week.
Ken, just over here, not to belittle the point about playing in front of the hometown crowd and all that tonight, but you talk to some players and they have a chance to come back and play in their hometowns, and they kind of don't want to because of the pressure and the fishbowl. Was that something you thought about, or is that something you've had to deal with, or is it still too early? Or
the emotional part for me is based on former players, not not pro players, but I mean, I spent 12 years in Sherwood Park, and I went through a lot of hockey players. And I know who are the suite holders and who are the season ticket holders, and I know they live and die with the Oilers. That's the pressure for me. It's those guys. They put me in a spot where I could make a living at the game. And I just ran into Bob Green, and he gave me a list of who's rolling in. And it's a big deal for them, and so it's a big deal for me. That's the one part that makes me nervous. I don't want to let that group. They gave me a lot of success for a long period of time, allowed me to go and coach in junior hockey, and allowed me to get in the NHL. I don't want to let those guys down. The other factor for me is I have a lot of medals and a lot of rings because of the people that work for this organization. Whether it was Wayne and starting in 02 or Kevin in 02, Peter in 14, Bob Nicholson right from 02 on, between Olympics and World Cups and World Championships. I've been really fortunate because of those guys giving me the chance to do it year in and year out. So that's the other responsibility I feel. But it's a big responsibility when you've been through as many midget players as I've been through. I just don't want to let those guys down.
Hey, Ken. Nice to see you. What's your version of what happened in Dallas last year and why it didn't work out for more than a year?
Well, first of all, I didn't really know if I wanted to do it. This is a different animal coming to Edmonton. I wasn't sure I wanted to keep doing it, so there was some gray area there, and I told Jim that, I think it's important for me that if I'm not 100% committed, then I ought to back off. I was really proud of what we did. Look, there was a period of time in Dallas for 50 games. We were, if not the best team in the West, one of the top 2 teams. A player got hurt, and it changed our disposition in the room, on the ice. But I am really proud of the growth of the players. We came from way back in the bus, and we made immediate steps to the front of the bus. And a lot of those players grew very quickly with our coaching staff, whether it was the responsibility that Rick had with those defensemen. A lot of those guys had career years. I saw a lot of potential in 3 or 4 forwards, and I leaned on them hard, and I pushed them hard, but I stayed with them, and they really grew as players. I look back on that, and we were 14 games under 500 when Ben went down, and we were a 100-point team. We were definitely a 100-point team. Now, we didn't get there. There was a different vibe and feel when Ben wasn't around, and that's unfortunate. That's hockey. But I got to tell you, Mike, the growth of those players and the way I see them play now, the growth that they're continuing to grow with Jim, is pretty impressive because they have really taken the bit and really improved, and I'm really proud. And I feel like our coaching staff from last year deserves an awful lot of credit for the growth that we did so quickly there.
Ken, back to the front row here. First of all, welcome home. Secondly, the Stars are obviously a team that you're familiar with. They seem to get better as the game goes on. They lead the league in second period goals. What's the scouting report on them, and how do you feel like the Oilers match up against them tonight?
Well, they win because they lean on you. They just know they can go the distance. And they've had some injuries on defense, but they'll get through that. They just lean on you, and they just wear you down. And they have a number of players, especially up front, that compete in the puck so hard that unless you're ready to dig in, you're just going to, at some period of time, get pushed out of the game. That's what they do. And that's the way they're built, and they're very good at it. They've got tremendous depth up front. They lean on you, and they just push you out of the game.
Ken, going back to Jesse, you mentioned that you knew a lot of the players who've been scouting the opposition this season, and you obviously coached against them for the last few years. Where you've coached a lot of other young players, you've seen all the young ones, they all develop at different times. When you look at his body of work right now, where are the specific things that you're hoping to help him improve on that he can become more of an effective NHLer?
Who's that?
Jesse Puljujärvi.
I think he's got to become a worker first. Let the skill take over once the work's in place. And I think the thing that, one of the major reasons I wanted him to come into this group was it's been a long time for me as a coach, a long, long time. It goes back, quite frankly, to the Dallas days, the first set when I was there in the prehistoric age. When I go back, that group, they were so respectful of each other, they just went to war at practice against each other. This group does this. I've never seen a group for a long time practice like this against each other. And the respect they show for each other by the way they go at it, to me, you can really grow if you're involved in that atmosphere. And I think Jesse needs to be part of that atmosphere if we expect this guy to grow. And if we want him to get to the next level as a player, he needs to have to dig in and go it the way these guys go. Because I've had 2 full practices with him, and both times I've had them to ask him to slow down and back off. Just, you know, and like I said on the ice today, the penalty killers let the power play have a little bit of success, because the 2 practices we've had before, they just go at each other so hard. You know, I've had to ask them at times to back off.